Hi everybody, it's Katie back with another episode of my vlog, and of course it's Sunday, so it's time for our weekly Cinema Club Roundup. We had another short week of movies this week. We actually only watched 3 movies this week. I think it's like the lowest number of movies we've watched in a week all year. We've been doing a bunch of getting ready for holiday stuff. We've been doing a bunch of playing video games as a family, which is so much fun. And we're still working our way through the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV series. So a little bit fewer movies than we normally would watch, but they were 3 great ones. So let's jump right in. We started the week last week with The Spanish Prisoner from 1997. This is another movie written and directed by David Mamet. It's kind of the second movie in his 3 movie series of neo-noir thriller, kind of heisty, kind of con man-y movies. Of course, we watched House of Games last week. This is the one in the middle, and then Heist is the 3rd one in this kind of, again, it's not a trilogy at all, but it's sort of these 3 movies that David Mamet has made that are all kind of similar to each other in a very specific way, and all 3 of them are incredible movies. So, Spanish Prisoner. This one, instead of being about interpersonal relationships and psychologists, is more about corporate espionage. There is a main character, I can't actually remember the character's name, but he's played by Campbell Scott, who has invented some kind of a proprietary process for the company that he works for, and he and the company think that this process is probably worth a lot of money. They never actually tell you what the process is or what it is supposed to do, and it doesn't really matter for the plot of the movie. But the movie is really more about him trying to protect his interests, make sure that he gets paid, the company trying to protect their interests. Everybody's very concerned about security and if someone is trying to steal this proprietary information, and how are they going to keep it secure. It's a real slow burn, much slower than House of Games. Actually, the whole first half of the movie is kind of just the setup for what's going on. But once it starts unfolding, it picks up the pace, and it's one of those things where you start realizing, oh, nothing is what it seems. There's twists and turns, and some of them you see coming, but most of them you don't. And it's pretty amazing. The notable cast addition to this one is Steve Martin in a totally serious, totally non-comedic role. I think it might be the only movie I've ever seen him in where he's just not playing a funny character at all. And it's incredible. It's so cool. I'm a huge Steve Martin fan, and he's one of the funniest people I think ever. And watching him in just a dead serious straight man role is incredible. I mean, the guy's a great actor, and a lot of film theorists have talked in the past about how it's actually harder to do great comedic acting than to do great dramatic acting. So I'm never surprised when I see a person who's a great comedian take on a dramatic role and do a great job with it. But it's a real treat to get to see Steve Martin playing this serious character who is maybe nefarious, maybe not. I'm not going to tell you guys because, as usual, I don't want to spoil anything from the movie, but I really want to encourage you to watch it. So, like all David Mamet movies, this feels a bit like a stage play. The dialogue is in Mamet's signature style, which apparently people call Mamet speak, which I hate that term, so I'm not even going to use it. But it's a very specific style. It sometimes feels almost like a kind of rigid delivery from the actors, but it works incredibly well with Mamet's directing style. So if you watched House of Games and you liked it, on my suggestion, I would definitely say watch The Spanish Prisoner. The sort of way that the plot goes is a little bit harder to follow in this one, just because it does deal with like insider information and corporate espionage and those types of topics. It's not like super difficult, but it's like lightly less accessible than House of Games. I did have to explain a few things to the kids, but they mostly were able to just follow right along with it, and they loved it. So again, a 10 and 12-year-old totally loved it. So House of Games was awesome. Spanish Prisoner, I would say it's a little bit less fantastic than House of Games, but man, it is right there alongside of it. And like I said, if you liked one, you'll definitely like the other one, and you should definitely see it. Excuse me. It feels very much like a Hitchcock movie. And that's one of the things I really love about this one. It's really like Mamet is tapping into this Hitchcockian vibe that is just fantastic. So again, if you like Hitchcock films, I would also recommend The Spanish Prisoner. Excuse me. The next movie we watched this week, it was Sean's pick, and he wanted to throw down a stone cold blaxploitation classic for the kids. So we watched Dolemite. This is, of course, the 1975 film written by and starring Rudy Ray Moore as Dolomite, and directed by D'Urville Martin, who plays Willie Green in the movie. If you've never seen Dolomite, this is a real treat of a movie. So Rudy Ray Moore got his start as a stand-up comedian. He was doing various, gigs around. And at some point, he started developing this character of Dolomite. And he would go and do stand-up shows in the character of Dolomite, who is almost a proto-rapper. Like, Dolomite's style is to deliver insulting stories in verse. So it's almost like he's freestyle rapping, but not quite, because that doesn't exist yet. The character of Dolomite, in both Rudy Ray Moore's characterizations of him in clubs and in the movie, is he's a pimp and he is a nightclub owner. He's been in jail. He's been set up by Willie Green, who's his competition, the other pimp in town. But he's finally gotten out of jail with some help from his lady friends, and he's trying to get his business of selling women back, and get his nightclub back from Willie Green. Willie Green has been working with corrupt cops to frame Dolomite and put him away. The whole time that he's been in prison, Queen Bee, his lady on the outside, has been training his girls to do kung fu. So he has an army of kung fu hookers who are going to go into battle for him. Now, this movie is extremely low budget. Rudy Ray Moore apparently financed the whole thing out of his own pocket, hired a bunch of his own friends and fellow comedians to be in it. And it shows. It's very low budget. It's not very well written. It's marginally well acted, but man, this movie is just a treat to watch. And it's a real treat to watch it now, 45 years on, because so many things in the 45 years that have gone by since this movie came out are influenced by Dolomite or referencing Dolomite. So totally recommended if you like blaxploitation as a genre. If you like, it's not so bad, it's good. It's actually really fun to watch, and it's a decent movie, but it's also a bad movie, if that makes sense. If you like, gosh, there's just so much to love about this movie. I don't want to break it all the way down for you, but Dolomite is totally, totally recommended for any person interested in blaxploitation as a genre, or sort of the street feeling of the mid-70s, I would say. It's just this really great snapshot of that. I actually like the sequel better than the first movie in this case. The second movie is called The Human Tornado, and the opening sequence of the second movie is one of my favorite just scenes in cinema history. I'm not going to go into detail about what it is. You could actually watch Human Tornado without having seen Dolomite, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would definitely see Dolomite first. And if you watch Dolomite and you like it, definitely watch The Human Tornado, because it's like Dolomite times 10. It just keeps getting crazier and better and more wild. Although the opening is pretty wild. So, of course, if you've been paying any attention to Netflix, you know that a movie called Dolomite Is My Name, starring Eddie Murphy as Dolomite. Well, Eddie Murphy as Rudy Ray Moore as Dolomite. That movie came out a year and a half ago on Netflix. Really, really good. Totally recommended. Sean and I watched it together. We totally loved it. We felt like it was a great representation of what was going on when that movie was made. We've done our, research on this. We know a little bit about it, and it feels pretty accurate. The vibe is great on Dolomite Is My Name. And Eddie Murphy does an incredible job playing Rudy Ray Moore in that movie. So again, if you watch Dolomite and you love it, definitely watch The Human Tornado, and then go ahead and check out Dolomite Is My Name, the more recent film, because I really think it adds a really fun piece to your experience of this particular piece of movie history. So Dolomite, 100% recommended. Obviously, he's a pimp. He is selling the wares of hookers, if you will. So if you're not prepared to have that conversation with your kids, maybe don't watch this one with your kids. Of course, as I've said, we kind of watch whatever with our kids and then just have any of the awkward conversations that come up around that stuff. So, speaking of Eddie Murphy, the third movie that we watched this week was actually our kids' first Eddie Murphy movie. If you can believe that, it's really weird to think about because, man, I grew up watching every Eddie Murphy movie. We watched Coming to America last night. We were actually inspired. A friend of mine is obsessed with the Eddie Murphy song, Boogie in the Butt. I don't know if you guys know that song. I'll go ahead and put a link to it down below if you don't know it. It is one of the funniest comedy songs basically ever. It's just Eddie Murphy singing about putting things in people's butts. And a friend of mine has been playing this song for her daughters, not like calling attention to it, but just putting it on in the background, hoping that they would like listen to the lyrics and go, Mom, what are you listening to? She's been doing this for 2 years. They finally actually paid attention to the lyrical content of the song and were like, what is this? And then they recorded their own version and sent it to me. And I nearly fell over laughing. It was so wonderful to get this homemade cover of Boogie in the Butt. And I was immediately inspired. I was like, okay, I played the song for the kids. And then I was like, we have to watch an Eddie Murphy movie. I can't believe my kids have not seen an Eddie Murphy movie. And when I was thinking about Eddie Murphy movies, I was like, well, where do you want to start with an Eddie Murphy movie? And I said, okay, it's either has to be Beverly Hills Cop or Coming to America. That's like the two places I would start for my kids. And I decided to just look up a little bit about each one to kind of make my decision. And as soon as I saw that Coming to America was directed by John Landis of the Blues Brothers, of American Werewolf in London, of Thriller, it was an obvious choice to me. So that's what we watched last night. Of course, Coming to America from 1998, starring Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, who each play 4 different roles in the movie, which is incredible. Special makeup effects by Rick Baker, who of course loves working with John Landis. He did all of the extra makeup for those 2 actors to make them look completely different in their other roles that they play inside of the movie. Of course, this movie is a romantic comedy about a young African prince, played by Eddie Murphy, and his friend slash advisor slash servant, played by Arsenio Hall. Eddie Murphy, his character is named Akeem. He is supposed to be married in an arranged marriage that he doesn't want, and so he decides to head to America to find a woman that he can marry. Of course, there's a bunch of hilarious cultural clashes that happen with a rich African who's never been to America coming to New York and trying to pretend to be poor because he doesn't want whatever woman falls for him to know that he's a wealthy African prince. He wants this woman to love him for who he is, not what he is, as he says in the movie. So they move into this totally crappy apartment. It's upstairs from a classic New York barbershop. The barbershop is crammed with hilarious old man characters, 3 of whom are played, again, by Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall in crazy makeup by Rick Baker. So you can recognize them, but it's a little bit hard. At the very end of the movie, they have video credits where they show who played who, and that helps you decipher if you can't actually tell how many of these characters are played by Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall in the movie. The barbershop scenes are some of my favorite scenes in the movie. They're incredibly funny. I will note Cuba Gooding Jr. shows up in the barbershop as a kid getting a haircut, and that's his first movie role ever. And what to say about this movie? It's incredible. It's incredibly funny. Great performances by everyone in the movie, but Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall steal it with playing 4 roles each. Probably my favorite part of the movie is the Black Awareness Week event that they have where Randy Watson and Sexual Chocolate play, I believe, the Children of the Future. This is incredible because it is like 50% Eddie Murphy making fun of that type of musician, and then 50% him showing off that he can actually sing. But the whole movie is wall-to-wall funny. It's got great gags, great performances. It's got a tight story. I mean, it's a little bit cheesy when you break it down. It's a basic romantic comedy plot, so there's not actually a lot there. And I'm sure somebody might have something to say about the way that the fictional African nation of Zamunda is portrayed in the movie. I'm sure that, in the years that have gone by since it came out, everybody got a lot more cross-culturally sensitive. And so I'm sure there's problems with the portrayal of Zamunda that someone might have a complaint about, but I sure didn't. It's just totally fun. It's a great, really funny movie. 100% recommended for fans of comedy, fans of John Landis movies, fans of Eddie Murphy, fans of romantic comedies, fans of New York in the 80s. There's just a lot to love here. In the not love category of this movie, though, apparently Eddie Murphy and John Landis had a major personality conflict working on this movie together. They had worked together previously on Trading Places 5 years before, and Murphy's career skyrocketed in between those 2 movies. And apparently John Landis was treating him the same way that he treated him on Trading Places and kind of directing him that way. And Eddie Murphy was a much bigger star at this point and did not like being talked to that way by John Landis. So apparently they had a lot of conflict on set, but it doesn't come through in the finished product of the movie. The movie is incredible, and I never would have known that there was a clash between the star and the director if I hadn't read that. So learned something new today. The other funny tidbit is Nile Rodgers, who did most of the music in this movie, apparently, according to Wikipedia, has said that writing the jingle for Soul Glow, which is the fictional, Jerry Curl-esque product in the movie, Nile Rodgers called the Soul Glow jingle his proudest moment in his entire musical career, which is pretty amazing if you think about everything that he has ever been a part of. That's the one thing that he picked out. That's pretty cool. It's a great song. The Soul Glow song is pretty phenomenal. So Coming to America, way recommended. All of us thoroughly enjoyed it. Not much else to say there. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up now. Hope you guys have had a great week. Please do let me know what you've been watching down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this vlog, and I will be back in a few more days with another episode. Until then, everybody, stay safe and take care out there, and thanks so much for watching.